Hi, my name is David Petro, and I am a 54-year-old vice principal in a middle school and high school in Windsor. And I live in Harrow, a tiny small town in southern Ontario. Today I want to talk to you about how exercise literally almost killed me, but really saved my life. Now, before I get to the carnage, let me tell you about my relationship with exercise. And the short story is I love to move, especially outside. And it doesn't matter what the weather is. For example, this is me outside for a long 1-hour bike ride when the temperature was minus 13 degrees Celsius. You know, when I go to the cottage in the summer, it's a relaxing thing for me to wake up for the sun and do a 2-kilometer swim. I'm a multiple Ironman finisher. And, you know, even though there hasn't been much racing since the pandemic started, I did manage to ride my bike from my house to Niagara Falls in one day. That's a 410-kilometer bike ride in about 15 and a half hours with some rests at an average speed of about 30 kilometers an hour. So I think it's safe to say that I'm probably a pretty fit guy. At least I like to try to stay fit. Now, enough about me and exercise, at least for this point. Let's get to the story. It kind of starts at the end of last summer when two of my brothers, my nephew and I, went out west. We were going to do some downhill mountain biking, and that's basically when you take a chairlift up the mountain with your bike and then ride down the groomed trails, barely pedaling along the way. So it's the first day, and before we even go and get on a bike, I say to my brother Jason, hey, we're at the bottom of a mountain and we are normally used to the flatlands of Ontario. Let's go for a 7K run up. Makes total sense, right? This is some of the harder section here that you can see, but here's the thing. We didn't get more than a couple of minutes in and I was struggling to keep up. My chest was sore, I had trouble breathing, and now what's going through my head is because of the pandemic, I thought, I hadn't been racing, I hadn't been doing much intense workouts. You know, a year ago I had hurt my knee and I hadn't been doing much running. So maybe that burning I felt in my chest, I thought that was just me being out of shape. In fact, I kept apologizing to Jason about not being able to keep up. So we only made it about 2 kilometers up and we had to turn around. When we finished the run, my chest settled down, and it settled down pretty fast, and so we spent the rest of the week barreling down the mountains on our bikes, no problem. So we come back home, and a week later, bike racing starts up again at the Charo Club. 2 years of no racing, and we're back to racing again. Now, it's just 2 races, but I'm there. And to be clear, I'm not that fast. In fact, this is me at the tail end of the pack, where I normally reside. But for these 2 races, not only could I not keep up with the pack, but I was getting lapped. And it didn't seem like I had any energy. And that chest pain was back again. But when I stopped, the pain went away. And so this is what's going through my head. Man, I must really be out of shape. That chest pain is that normal burning feeling when you just have that really hard run. And I'm thinking, man, I have to get back in shape. Now, I love that pain. Normally that pain is an indicator that to me that I'm reaching my limits, and that's a good thing. It just seemed like these limits were way too low and lower than normal. So my family convinced me to get it checked out by a doctor. I agreed, but I wasn't expecting anything to come of it because, when I walked around every day, I felt fine. So I go to the doctor and they suggest a stress test. This is basically a test where I'm on a treadmill, they put it on an incline, and every 3 minutes or so they increase the speed. And while on the treadmill, I'm hooked up to an EKG and they are constantly talking to me and reading the readings. Well, not too far in, I started getting that chest pain. And when they increased the speed another increment, the pain increased and they immediately stopped the test. To be honest, I complained at that point because I definitely could go faster and further, and I didn't really feel like I should have failed this test. But apparently yes, the cardiologist said after he looked at the results that he thought there was maybe about a 70% chance that there might be some blockage in my heart and I was going to need an angiogram to have a better look. So, what's an angiogram? Here's where they take a catheter and they insert it into your wrist or your groin, and they push it all the way into the heart. And then they pump a dye through the catheter and watch where it goes via x-ray. Now, this particular one isn't mine, but you can see when the dye is pumped through where it goes, and in this particular one you can see this particular person has 90% blockage in one of their areas. And so this way they can see this blockage in your arteries, and the whole time while they're doing this you're fully conscious because they need to talk to you. And about 20 minutes in, the doctor tells me that, hey, we found 99% blockage in your LAD. That's your left anterior descending artery. So what does that mean? Well, here's a cross-section of two arteries. One that's healthy on the right. Here the blood can flow through the whole thing, and on the left, notice with 99% blockage, it can only flow through that little bit in the center. This is why people have heart attacks. Because, imagine when you've ever had your thumb over the hose and how fast the water comes out because of the pressure. When you only have 1% of the area for your blood to go through, that pressure can be enough to cause the artery to split, and that's a heart attack. So, 99% in my left anterior descending artery wasn't the only problem. Don't get me wrong, that's a big problem. Of people who have heart attacks because of the LAD, only about 5% survive. That's why it's called the widowmaker. But I also had blockage in my circumflex and my obtuse marginal, and essentially the left side of my heart was totally messed up. So what do? Well, what they do is they put in these small expandable spring-like structures called stents. They use that catheter that's in your system already to push the stent in and then inflate it and the artery with the kind of balloon, and the stent stays open and keeps the artery open. They put one in right away, again while I'm full awake, and then they put the other one in about a month later. They couldn't put a stent in that third block space because of where it was, and so they just inflated it, and that part of the artery was just opened up. So let's recap. I didn't feel well, went to the doctor, found out my left side of my heart was blocked up, and now I've got two stents and a third blockage point that was inflated but no stent put in. That's just an angioplasty that was done. Now I've left a bit of info out here in that my dad had passed away at 67 from a massive heart attack and stroke. And so there were some risk factors for me here already. And I was, having regular medical checkups that showed slightly high cholesterol for years, but that cholesterol was never increasing. And so because of my lifestyle, there wasn't much worry. But now I'm on cholesterol medication, probably for the rest of my life, 6 months of cardiac rehab, cardiac checkups once a year, I have to watch my diet, and of course, I've got to exercise. I'm pretty sure I've got that last one taken care of. Now to me, the next bit is a little bit ironic. That's the day I started my cardiac rehab program at the facility named after my family. Now the facility is named that way not because my brother Jason runs it, but because over the last 10 years or so, our family has been running and organizing the Heartbreaker Challenge. This is a mud and obstacle course race held here at Malden Park, and over the years we've raised over $650,000 to help build that facility. So to me, it's ironic that, I thought I was just helping the community, but really, now I'm a patient at this place. Now, of course, I started this talk talking about exercise almost killing me, and so let's go back to that point. And so as it turns out, when I was running up the mountain, and when I was racing my bike a few weeks later, I wasn't 100% truthful on what my chest pain was, both in this video and to my own self in my head at the time. Actually, there was pain in my chest, but also in my back and down my arms. And honestly, it wasn't just pain, it felt like my chest was going to explode. So in those cases, exercise was literally going to give me a heart attack. I didn't have a heart attack, but the question is, why? Well, it turns out that all those years of exercising, of putting constant, good, and manageable stress on my heart, meant that the heart found another way. When the blockage started, and I was doing exercise that put stress on my heart, it developed other pathways to get the blood from one place to another. So it built what are called collateral arteries to bypass the blockage. So when I walked around every day, I felt normal. And when the blockage got to 99% and I put high stress on it, that was the only time I felt the pain. But the artery walls stayed strong and they didn't rupture and I didn't have a heart attack. Now, what's the moral here? Now, there have been some people that have said, maybe jokingly, see all that exercise and you still had blockage and almost a heart attack, wasn't that a waste? Or they say, weren't you lucky that you didn't have a heart attack? But I actually think of it in a different way. First of all, as far as luck is concerned, the only luck was bad luck. That is, I lost the genetic lottery. It turns out that there is a marker protein called lipoprotein A that I have, and that level is through the roof. There's nothing you can do about it if you've got it, but having high levels is highly correlated with heart disease. A normal reading is anything less than 100. My reading was well over 250. That is, the blockage was going to be happening to me no matter what. It didn't matter what my lifestyle was. It was just a matter of time before I was going to feel it or have a heart attack. And yes, those 3 events almost caused me to have a heart attack. But all the exercise that I've done years over had protected me and was basically insurance against that heart attack. So it in fact saved my life. If I didn't have the active lifestyle, the one that I love, those arteries would have gotten blocked, and a simple trip up the stairs or a stressful day could have triggered a heart attack, and I would never seen it coming. So, am I still active now, given my current condition? Absolutely. In the 2 months between finding out there was a problem and getting those 2 stents put in, they were super tough for me because I couldn't exercise just to be on the safe side. I mean, prior to that, I don't think I've gone more than a couple weeks without exercising. But since then, it's more than 6 months later, I'm back to racing my bike at the Chicharro Club, and my normal weekend run is back up to a half marathon. This blockage may come back again, and it probably will, considering this is a genetic condition. But now I know the signs, and I'm going to do everything I can to fight back. And I hope that you too have started to see the benefit of the insurance that exercise gives you against a cardiac event. Thanks for listening, and good luck.